you're based in New York City, and has that been? How do you think that's affected? I think that's sort of affected your. The people talk a lot now about sort of New York as a place where sort of there's more startup activity. Do you think being in New York has helped you? Has hurt you?
I think it's absolutely affected the growth of Tumblr. For me, I grew up in New York, so I couldn't really imagine doing it anywhere else.
Yeah.
What I've noticed running Tumblr out of the city has been just sort of being in the vicinity, sometimes being in the shadow of these really big media companies, puts things in a perspective that you don't necessarily get anywhere else in the world. Not Silicon Valley, not any other country. I think there's something about kind of just being this crazy dense area full of companies that are constantly thinking about audiences in the hundreds of millions, and the tens of millions and hundreds of millions, really reminds you sort of like the way the world works and the way people communicate and the way messages get out. And I think it's been humbling more than anything, but it's very much affected the way we think about our own network, our own communities, and our audience.
It's affected your thinking, but it's also probably like that your initial community was sort of these New York media sort of creative types, right?
I don't really know how that happened. I mean, it might have just been us being here, but I don't think it's anything that I necessarily did deliberately. I don't think it's anything that our company really went after. I feel incredibly grateful for it, and we have an amazing community. We had very early on an amazing community here in New York, and still have an incredibly strong community in the city. But yeah, I don't really know how it happened.
I kind of feel like being in New York keeps you like a little more grounded too, because you interact so much with people that aren't in the tech community.
That's a pretty wonderful thing, actually.
So they're sort of like, if you explain something to them and it's like,
At the same time, though, you hear from people in San Francisco, or I hear from New Yorkers who spend a weekend in San Francisco or get to work out there for some time. They say it just feels like anything's possible. It feels like you're living in the future. So I think there's value in both ends.
Have you found that some of the things people say about New York, like it's hard to hire engineers and things, have you found that to be? I mean, my personal observation is it's hard to hire engineers everywhere. But I don't know. I mean,
one of the cool things is it's really easy to recruit people to move to New York.
Yeah.
Much, I think, harder. Maybe not hard to get people to move to California, but somebody who's been hanging out in Palo Alto for years, I think, is usually pretty intrigued by the opportunity to live in like an interesting, vibrant, alive city like New York. So
you find most of the people you like?
Not most, but we've found some luck with that so far, and I think we'll probably continue to.